Hey folks, walk with me. It is a brisk, windy fall day out here, and I'm sorry if the audio is rough because of the wind, but we'll see what happens. Speaking of rough, my hair is very rough. I don't know what's going on with that, but I wanted to share a little tale of what I would consider to be the scariest period of my life. And the goal here is to share it to offer an opportunity to connect with other people if they're going through what they're considering to be the scariest time in their life. Talk about some of the things, or it might just sort of be one thing that I found that helped me out of it. Not to say that that will help you, but maybe it will give you something to sort of keep in mind or look for or what have you. Or if you're just curious to hear a real life story, and maybe just sort of park it in the back of your mind in case it ever has any relevance to your life. But here's the gist. In 2009, my dad had an accident and died unexpectedly, as an accident would clue you into. And at that time, I was I was very unhappy with the job that I was working, and was interested in pursuing other things, and had been in Chicago for about 5 years at that point. Was sort of interested in seeing other places, being less tied down. And so I decided that I was going to let the lease run out on my apartment, which I think was running out like that summer or that fall, something like that. And I was going to start traveling around and trying to make money playing music, which is what I had been doing sort of at night when I was away from my day job. And was trying to, at that point, you could start to like self-publish music, and thanks to Derek Sivers and CD Baby. And there were tools for being able to work yourself into a position where you were sort of this working, touring musician, playing often fairly small clubs for fairly small amounts of money. But it was a life that I wanted to try, and it was something that I felt deeply connected to and passionate about. And I saw a lot of opportunity to see the country, maybe to see things beyond the country, to meet a whole bunch of new and different people from various walks of life, and to see if I could entertain any folks and get them interested to follow along. So I let my apartment go, and I guess I sort of had this presupposition that I would be able to find a place to stay from all of the people who I had met in Chicago. There were some people who had moved to Chicago that I had known previously. There were a lot of people that I had met in Chicago. I was working at health clubs at the time, and I was in my mid-20s. So yeah, you meet a lot of people, the clientele, the other workers, and I had done that at 2 different clubs. And so there was just a lot of people in the city that I knew. And what ended up happening was, and the feeling that I was sort of left with after this, was that the minute that folks see you as someone who's maybe a little bit hard on their luck, a bit down and out, if you will, that they just scatter, right? That they don't really step in to help support you. Not that I was looking for somebody to give me money or anything. More so what I was looking for was I needed, when my lease ran out on my apartment, I didn't have shows booked for a few months in advance because you have to book those things in advance. And so I just had a period of time where I didn't have a place to stay. I was like very focused. I had started putting out videos and I was just trying to get myself in the best possible position so that when I hit the road and I was touring and playing shows, that I at least had a shot. And I sort of thought from the friends that I thought I had made, the friends who had moved there, that I would be able to, store some of the stuff. I had very minimal stuff as a mid-20s male would. And some place that I could store stuff, and then, some folks that I could sort of hop around just a night or two here and there, but that I knew enough people that I wouldn't just sort of be left out on the street. Well, left out on the street is what happened. I heard a lot of no's. I did hear a couple of yeses. There wasn't anyone who really, I want to say, dug in to ask what was going on. And it just became very scary very quickly when I realized, I don't want to say that they were fair weather friends, but I will say that when things got, less than really happy-go-lucky, that they weren't even wanting to have a discussion around it, I guess, is part of the thing. And so, there were nights where I was sleeping out on the street in Chicago. There was a night where I climbed up sort of like the back staircase of townhomes, which is kind of typical in the area where there are townhomes there, where they have like this back staircase and then sort of like a porch area. I had climbed up on one of those one night because I found a couch. And I slept on that couch and woke up when the sun was coming up, and I just thought, oh my God, I'm gonna get myself arrested here. I was often living off of, at that time, Trader Joe's would put out free coffee and fruit that was about to go bad, like tangerines, clementines, I remember being very common. So I would get coffee and clementines from there to have meals some days. And I feel like the hardest or the worst was, maybe this wasn't worse than on the street, but I would be in 24/7 Starbucks, and I would take my phone and I would set a 5-minute timer, and I would go into the bathroom and I would lay down on the floor. Yes, I know this is gross, but I'm, beyond that. I would lay down on the floor, set my timer, fall asleep because I was exhausted, right? Because these are just periods when I'm terrified to sleep out at night. And when my timer went off, I would get up and go back out and just pretend like I'd been going to the bathroom. And I would do that every few hours. And so, this became very scary very quickly, and I just thought, am I going to be able to get myself out of this, right? Because I was holding on to the little bit of money and whatnot that I had to get to my first show that I had booked outside of Chicago. And that was going to pay me a little bit of money. I was going to be able to get a place to stay, and they were going to feed me. And so that was sort of the key to getting to that point where I could start with the shows was, they were at venues where they would feed you, give you drinks, and then if they weren't providing a place to stay, you could often find locals who were cool people who were just interested in meeting artists and stuff, and they would sort of let you couch surf essentially. And so you could stay with them for a day or two, or maybe 3, depending on sort of how quickly you had to get out of there. You know, but you could also book travel. This is what I found out pretty quickly that helped a lot. If I'm booking a bus or a train, I never had money for a flight, or rarely had money for a flight, I guess I should say. But if I'm booking a bus or a train and I can do it overnight, that's the savior right there, because that takes care of that is a hotel and transportation all wrapped into one. And so once I got going and started playing shows, you know, then things just slowly but surely improved, and I was able to just keep it going for years, and building bigger crowds, and then starting to make some money, and, you know, things shifted over time. Maybe that's a story for another day. But it was a really scary period of time when I just thought, I was really confident that all these friends that I thought that I had, that I could rely on them. And it very much felt to me, I'm sure there's much more to the story from other people's perspective, but to me it just really felt like the minutes that somebody seemed a little less than, I don't know, the norm, the standard, that they just didn't really want anything to do with that. And it made me really sad on top of everything else. But being able to pursue a thing that I was so bought into and felt so strongly about is really what saved me. If I didn't have this sort of, like, what I felt was a noble goal to be sort of sacrificing for, then I feel like I could have gotten sucked down a bad route and rabbit hole and never found my way out. So in many ways, this lasted, like, there were periods where I would sort of go through tough spells again, but nothing like that initial sort of diving off the cliff, if you will. So yeah, that's the story. And so I know this isn't great advice that's going to translate for everyone, but if there is some sort of noble goal that you have, that you can be sacrificing for, that you can be working toward, and that's sort of part of why you're having the struggle that you're struggling, or the scary period that you're having, you know, just remaining focused on that noble goal and just trying to get there, you know, it helped me a ton. But again, I know this is gonna feel flimsy and trite and just irrelevant to a lot of people. All right, well, I'm to a road, which this is just gonna make this video really sucky, so we're gonna stop it here. But 13 minutes, thank you so much if you came along with me, whether you walked or not, I really appreciate it. Here's the wind, and as always, I will see you in the next video.